Good afternoon. One person is dead after a fire erupted at an apartment building in the northeast corner of Scarborough. Emergency crews called to the high-rise near Nielsen and McLevin early this morning. CTV's Janice Golding is live at the scene this afternoon to bring us the very latest. Janice, what have you learned about what happened?
Hi, Michelle. Residents believe that the victim is actually a woman who lived on the 16th floor in this condominium apartment behind us here in Scarborough. Now, fire officials say the call came in at around 7:45 a.m. and when they arrived, they were directed to a unit on the 16th floor. No one was responding when they arrived, so they had to breach the door. And when they entered, they say the fire was fully involved. Fire officials quickly knocked down the two-alarm blaze, but they did not find anyone inside the unit. However, an adult was discovered outside on the grass below without vital signs. Crews attempted CPR, but the person would be pronounced dead at the scene. Residents say they believe the victim is a woman between 45 and 52 years of age who lived alone. Here's more from Toronto Fire and one of the building's residents.
We got here in under 3 minutes. All of the living area was ablaze. 213 knocked the fire down very quickly, conducted a primary and secondary search, while the firefighters from 212 were working on the patient, performing CPR.
It was mostly the fire alarm for so long, and then when we looked out the window, we could see the smoke, we could see water coming off out of the window or the balcony or something. Just scary.
At this point, officials say that there is nothing to indicate that this fire is suspicious. Officials will be investigating the cause and origin of the blaze. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Now, that was not the only fatal fire. Another person has died following a fire at 200 Wellesley this morning. Crews called for reports of smoke on the 19th floor of the building. And when they arrived, they found a small kitchen fire. The flames were extinguished quickly, but one person was found dead inside. And just a short distance from there, 2 children were among 4 people taken to hospital after a fire in St. Jamestown. Flames broke out at around 3 a.m. in an 8th floor unit of the building on Ontario Street, and you can see lots of damage to several balconies, but it's not clear how many people have been displaced by this fire. The victims' injuries are described as moderate.
There are batteries and e-bikes present in the unit. It went from inside to outside, vented. We are still determining cause and cannot attribute it to the LIB batteries at this time.
And we will have more news in a moment, but let's take a moment on this Tuesday after a long weekend to take a first look at your weather as we embark on this short work week for many. Beautiful conditions. Yesterday was nice, and it's rolling right into this Tuesday. Bright blue sky and warm temperatures. If we have a look at the radar, you can see there's nothing to speak of. We're in for just a beautiful day, clear conditions. And if we look at the temperatures at this noon hour, not much in the way of humidity. So 24 degrees, feels like 25, a bit warmer down in Windsor. If you're in cottage country, a tad cooler. And when it comes to the winds blowing to the north here in Toronto, 11 kilometers an hour, so quite comfortable, definitely. As we head towards the overnight hours, take note of expecting 16 degrees. The norm is 17, so it might be a bit cool. If you have plans, you might want a little jacket, but nice, clear sky. And tomorrow when you wake up, there will be more humidity, 20 degrees, feeling like 25. We'll have more weather. We'll lay out your entire week a little later in the newscast, but for now, we'll get to more news. And there is new information today revealing concerns about hospital deficits, and CUPE is asking for more support. CTV's Siobhan Morris is following developments today from the Centenary Hospital, and from what I'm hearing right now, we don't have her. We'll get back to that. The community of St. Catharines, meantime, is waiting to get help from the province after catastrophic flooding following 3 torrential storms. A state of emergency is in effect in Lincoln as well as St. Catharines. Let's get to our Mike Walker now, who's following the latest on the situation. Bright sunshine today, but all that rain that we had, Mike, certainly had an impact.
It sure did. The mayor described it as a hurricanes worth of rain that fell here in the Niagara region, overwhelming the municipal drainage system and infrastructure, backing up into residents' homes. We heard from the mayor that 2/3 of the city was flooded after these two significant rain events back to back, essentially in less than a week. Where we are in this neighborhood, you can see that there is proper damaged furniture and garbage lining the streets here. Residents are now assessing the damage in their home, starting the process of repairs as the water has started to recede. But there are still several basements in this area that are still flooded. The mayor once again renewing the call to both the provincial and federal governments for disaster relief funding. Here's more from the mayor's appeal this morning. Well, we'll get to that after. We spoke with one woman who told us that she lost everything in her home. Her father passed away. She had memories of him. She said all of that was damaged by the flooding. The premier did put out a post on social media saying that his government will assist with affected residents and the municipality. Again, both St. Catharines and the town of Lincoln remain in a state of emergency as they are now just really dealing with the aftermath of severe flooding following two very intense rainstorms. We'll have more on this story tonight at 5 and 6. For now, Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And as we head south of the border now, where hundreds of homes have been swallowed up by a sprawling wildfire in Washington state. Flames swept the parched landscape this weekend, forcing people to flee. Some returned home to find nothing but ashes. Our Joy Malbin reports.
Terrifying scenes as more than a dozen wildfires scorch Washington state. More than 60,000 people forced to flee their homes.
Oh my God.
3 major fires are burning out of control near Spokane. Hundreds of buildings and homes charred and left in ruins.
I don't think I'm going to rebuild here because I don't ever want to have to relive a fire coming up this hill again.
Returning to what's left for some, there's nothing but heartbreak.
And I lost my dog Diamond, and my little daughter lost her kitty cat Bubbles, and I lost Henny Penny, my chicken. It's hard, but I'm thankful that my children and my grandchildren all made it out of the property.
Firefighters battling some of the worst wildfires here in 3 decades, driven by drought, dry, hot and windy conditions, and supercharged by climate change.
That's devastating. It's something we've never seen before. It's a fire that just moved quickly. As our crews went in, it's something that hadn't been seen before.
Officials believe most people have evacuated, but are chasing down reports more than a dozen people could be missing.
We are encouraging people who have not been able to contact a friend or neighbor or relative to file an official report so that we can do, law enforcement can do welfare checks.
The fires are expected to burn for weeks, already consuming 7,000 acres. Spokane had the worst air quality in America.
The impact on people's lives is truly profound. I'm deeply appreciative for all the first responders.
The governor's declared a state of emergency and says he spoke to the president about the urgency for direct federal aid and support as they struggle to get these fires under control.
CTV's Joy Malbin reporting from Washington. We have an update now on the wildfires burning in northern Ontario. The latest numbers from the Ministry of Natural Resources show 5 new fires were confirmed in the northeast region as of 6 p.m. yesterday. That means there were a total of 46 active fires in the northwest region of the province. 2 new blazes were confirmed by last evening for a total of 119. The MNR says 24 of them are out of control, but 8 fires were extinguished since the previous update. Back here in the city, service continues to resume for WestJet staff and travelers after job action grounded flights for a day. The airline and the union, representing about 4,400 flight attendants, reached a tentative deal to end a strike that began on Sunday. Our Rahim Ladhani is following the latest from Pearson Airport today. Rahim, this is peak travel season. It was a short disruption, but no doubt there are lingering impacts. What is the latest?
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a short labor disruption in the sense that it only lasted around 30 hours, but the ripple effect continues to be felt by travelers. Let me give you an example. We just spoke with a gentleman named Dan. He is in Winnipeg right now. He found out that his flight was canceled yesterday because of the strike. He would be rebooked on a Porter flight. He said, no problem. Then he went down to when that flight takes off. It's not until Friday, meaning he would be stuck in Winnipeg for 5 days. That's obviously very frustrating. Here at Pearson Airport, we are not seeing a lot of delays. In fact, there are no delays or canceled WestJet flights on the board right now at Pearson Airport, but that doesn't mean passengers aren't frustrated. We've spoken to a lot of passengers who say just the headache of not knowing what would have happened and having to come up with a contingency plan when they were hoping to go on vacation stress-free is just almost as bad as if their flights were canceled. And so that's a lot of what we're hearing from passengers right now. Have a listen to what some of them are telling us.
Because I called them and I was like, maybe I could, get another flight, get a refund. They were like, well, we're not going to give you a refund because the flight is not canceled yet officially. So it sucks. I don't know. It's really not a good impression for the customers,
We got rebooked on an Air India flight that's like a 33-hour journey, like 23 hours in the air and then 10 layover. We just went to check in for that flight and we were told that we're not on it.
Now, flight operations are not 100% back to normal, but according to Cirium, which is an aviation analytics company, they say that as of August 1st, there were more than 900 flights canceled with WestJet. Today, that number is down to 16. So we are seeing a significant ramp up in operations, but certainly not at 100% as of yet. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladhani. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Rahim. A group of 25 Democratic-led U.S. states is suing the Trump administration, arguing the president's latest round of tariffs on goods from 60 trading partners, including Canada, exceeded his legal authority, while Canada is imposing its own tariff on countries except the U.S. CTV's Abigail Beeman tells us why.
You're running 50% capacity because of this whole situation.
2 weeks after CTV News shared the story of this Quebec cabinet maker struggling under American tariffs and a flood of foreign products, Ottawa announced a 25% temporary tariff on imported wood cabinets and vanities.
Great step in the right direction.
The Canadian Wood Products Alliance was calling for a 125% tariff. Alain Ouzilot says 25% isn't likely enough to hire back laid-off employees, but it will make a big difference as he lobbies for the Canadian case in Washington.
It's sending the message to the U.S. administration that, hey guys, we're serious about, doing something that will avoid diversion of unfair products to your country as well.
All this a stopgap while the Canadian International Trade Tribunal investigates. A government source tells CTV News Canada needed to act now to avoid significant and maybe irreparable damage to the sector.
We're just very disappointed that the government chose to do this.
But the Retail Council of Canada is pushing back, concerned the move will raise prices for consumers.
There will be less availability of these goods at certain price points, and that will just drive up the costs of home renovations, of home constructions.
While the Canadian Federation of Independent Business supports the tariff, saying cabinet makers have been operating with one hand tied behind their back.
If the other nations are able to sell a better product at a lower cost, that's fair game. But if they're doing that because the U.S. market is closed to them and now they're just shoving product into Canada to try to get a portion of their money back, well, there are rules around that.
As per those World Trade Organization rules, this tariff can be in effect for up to 200 days, while the Canadian International Trade Tribunal must wrap up its investigation by January 15th.
A report from CTV's Abigail Beeman. We were talking about Ontario wildfires earlier. Now BC's Wildfire Service says there are 120 active fires burning in the province. One fire of note is the Bradley Creek wildfire north of Kelowna. That fire has forced many to evacuate their homes, including members of the Okanagan Indian Band Reserve. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us live from the National Newsroom with more on the situation. Scott, take us through how the country fared over the long weekend. And as we know, there are hundreds of wildfires burning right across the country.
Michelle, good afternoon. We've talked about this many times over the past couple of weeks, and unfortunately, this will likely be a topic for many more weeks to come. You mentioned the more than 120 fires that are currently burning in British Columbia, and we'll focus on British Columbia in just a moment. But out of those 120, those are just some of the more than 770 wildfires that are currently burning right across the country as we speak. And so far this wildfire season, overall, flames have devoured more than 37,000 square kilometers across the country. With the map right here that looks at the current fire status, all those dots, those are fires. The red ones are the ones that are considered out of control right now. Also, another map that we have really puts it into perspective. It is the Fire Weather Index, which helps with tracking and monitoring, showing intensity. The higher values here, the red, indicates higher intensity and larger flames. So that puts into perspective where we're really seeing the most significant wildfire threat right now. So honing in on British Columbia and the Okanagan region, multiple evacuation orders and alerts have been issued over the past several days because of fires burning in and around Okanagan Lake. You mentioned the Bradley Creek fire, with thousands forced to evacuate their homes. Roughly of those 120 burning in British Columbia right now, about 50 are classified as out of control. So there are many families, many communities that have been forced from their homes, now wondering what might be left when they return. And Michelle, the province is getting help from outside of the country. The forests minister yesterday announcing about 100 personnel from Mexico are now on the ground in British Columbia, with about 200 more expected later this week to help in the ongoing firefight in that province specifically, Michelle.
That is good to hear. So July's in the books. It's been a tough month for forest fighters. Can Canadians expect any relief in the forecast for August?
July is in the books, and as you mentioned, it was an incredibly tough one for wildfire fighting crews right across the country. We focused a lot on northwestern Ontario, and we focused a lot on British Columbia. Some regions in BC will likely see significant fire activity continue, at least in the short term. Northwestern Ontario also still an area of concern as well. And there are at least several more weeks, if not a couple more months, where the wildfire risk is considered to be the most elevated. The federal government's outlook had above normal temperatures remaining through August for many regions. So in many of these regions that have already been hard hit, Michelle, we can likely expect hot, dry and windy conditions to continue, which will continue to make it quite difficult for the crews trying to gain the upper hand on many of these out-of-control wildfires.
And we wish them well. CTV's Scott Hurst, live in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Let's get back to the new information today, revealing concerns about hospital deficits. And CUPE is asking for more support. Our Siobhan Morris is following the developments today from Centenary Hospital. Siobhan.
Well, we heard from CUPE today saying that really this funding issue has hit a boiling point. They say that because hospitals aren't allowed to run deficits, many of them are resorting to lines of credit to balance the books, something that is just not sustainable. What they're calling for today is an extra $5 billion worth of funding for Ontario hospitals to help alleviate some of the pressure. They say we're really in an extraordinary circumstance here because we have an aging population with more complex needs. They describe this as being just a moment in time. It's not necessarily true that this elevated amount of funding would be necessary over the long term, but they say if we don't see that sort of cash infusion from the provincial government, we'll see issues like longer wait times, longer delays for care, and a greater push to privatization of care in Ontario, something that the CUPE says they don't want to see happen, and they don't think Ontarians do either. We'll be able to get a response to all of these proposals from the Minister of Health. She's due to hold a news conference here in Scarborough in the next hour. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Peel police say a man is dead following a motorcycle crash in Brampton. This happened at Sunpack Boulevard and Queen Street around 7:30 this morning. Police say a sedan and the motorcyclist collided, and that motorcyclist was pronounced dead there on the scene. There are road closures in place, and drivers are being asked to avoid this area. One person is recovering after being rescued from the Scarborough Bluffs. The person believed to have been there since Monday. CTV News, the chopper was above the scene this morning. A passerby heard them calling for help this morning and contacted emergency services. Toronto Fire says the person is now receiving a medical assessment. There are changes to TTC service to keep in mind this week starting today. Service on Line 1 between Lawrence West and St. George stations will end nightly at 1 a.m. This early closure will last through Thursday. The planned closures for track work will start later than usual to accommodate commuters attending the concerts at Rogers Stadium this week. Shuttle buses will be running instead until the end of service. Turning to the Cyclosporiasis outbreak in the U.S. That's the parasite linked to lettuce that has made thousands of people sick. Today, officials are confirming the first deaths linked to that outbreak. CTV's Renee Rogers is following the latest on the situation. She joins us live with more. What do we need to know, Renee?
Hi, Michelle. Well, this outbreak has been going on south of the border for months. And as you say, it has now become deadly. On Monday, health officials in Michigan announced the first 2 deaths associated with this outbreak in the U.S. Of an illness that we've all now come to learn causes, among other things, watery diarrhea. Now, officials do say that deaths are rare. And they also add that both of these people who died did have significant underlying health conditions that may have impacted or been impacted by the disease, as well as dehydration. Now, it is important to know that Michigan really is the hotspot for this illness, and it has been since May 1st when the outbreak began. Cases there have now surpassed 11,500. Across the U.S., though, cases have topped 18,000 in 45 states, according to the latest data from the Centers for Disease Control. Keep in mind, however, that data, the latest available, is from last week. So there could possibly be more cases. Now, they are being driven by contaminated lettuce that has been sold at some Taco Bell locations in the United States. Taylor Farms, the brand behind that lettuce, has voluntarily recalled the affected products. However, it is a good idea to keep in mind that investigations are ongoing into other potential sources in the U.S.
Renee, I butchered the name earlier, Cyclosporiasis, and I think it's indicative of the fact that, we haven't talked much about it. What is it exactly, and are there any infections here in Canada?
Yes, you're right. This is something that we're now hearing about for the first time in a big way that we really didn't hear about it before. Now, cases of this in Canada are normal. And yes, there have been cases this year, as there normally are, but there's something alarming going on, and that is the number of cases. And if we look at Windsor, Essex, which, as we know, is right across a bridge from Michigan, that is where really the cases have really exploded. Now, residents traveling to Michigan are being advised to take extra precautions, particularly when it comes to fresh produce, particularly when it comes to lettuce. And that's because this is a foodborne illness. It's an intestinal illness that spreads through food and water, contaminated by, I'm sorry to say, but feces that's directly from the Centers for Disease Control. And aside from causing that watery diarrhea, it can also lead to nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, or bloating. Now, on average, the symptoms do appear, Michelle, about 1 week after exposure. And health officials are warning people on both sides of the border that if you are experiencing any prolonged symptoms, to get in touch with a healthcare provider.
Well, this is all good to know. CTV's Renee Rogers live for us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marineland has begun the second phase of its whale relocation plan. The second phase will see 7 additional whales on the move as they head to SeaWorld's San Antonio location. This relocation comes just weeks after the shuttered tourist attraction successfully transferred 6 belugas to 2 different parks in the U.S. Marineland says the health, safety, and well-being of the whales remains its top priority through this journey. The park tried to move the animals to China last year, but was stopped by the federal government. Marineland closed in September of 2024. And still to come this noon hour, after FIFA backed down from a controversial privatization proposal, several football organizations are now calling for change at the top of the organization. We'll have those details in minutes. But first, there's a new poll out this morning that isn't good news for the Conservatives. The Nano survey asked Canadians which Conservative politician can pose a challenge to Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney. With more on the findings, let's bring in CTV's Michael Serapio in our Ottawa bureau. Michael, great. Have you with us on this Tuesday? Tell us more about what this survey found.
Yeah, nice to see you, Michelle. What the survey found, as you say, is not good news for Conservatives. Certainly not good news for the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre. Let's begin here by looking at the overall picture as presented by Nona. So we do have a graphic to share with you, because the question that were asked of people who were surveyed was which Conservative can beat Mark Carney. And when you look at the results, well, the Conservative who the respondents said had the best chance of beating Mark Carney was Stephen Harper, not Pierre Poilievre. But even with Stephen Harper, the former Prime Minister, they said only 16% of those surveyed believe that he could beat Mark Carney. Only 15% of those surveyed believe Pierre Poilievre could beat Mark Carney. And the number one answer in this survey, 33% of Canadians believe, or at least those surveyed, believe that Mark Carney, there's no Conservative that can beat the current Prime Minister. And what's interesting here is when you look at the high-profile Conservative names that were given as an alternative to the current Prime Minister, Peter MacKay, Premier Danielle Smith, Rona Ambrose, no one came close whatsoever. Stephen Harper, again, the most likely candidate according to those who were asked the question. But Mark Carney standing out, which really does back up what we've seen this past year, Michelle, of the Prime Minister being the preferred choice of Prime Minister amongst Canadians since the election, sometimes hovering above 50%. And it also underlines what we've seen with Pierre Poilievre, where his personal rating numbers and preferred Prime Minister numbers are a drag on the party itself.
What about, I'm curious about the prairie provinces. What are the findings there?
Well, what's interesting about the prairie provinces is the fact that they too kind of back it up. And the prairies, of course, being very unique in that this is the Conservative heartland. But even in the Conservative heartland, when you look at what they say, there's still a significant number that doubt that Pierre Poilievre can actually take on Mark Carney. And what is notable about that is that this is the region where Pierre Poilievre has the greatest of strength. What would be positive for him, though, is amongst the Conservatives in the prairies, they still favor Pierre Poilievre above anybody else, including Stephen Harper, which backs up what we saw at the Conservative Leadership Convention earlier this year, where Pierre Poilievre got 87% support. The question is right now for him is how do you take on Mark Carney? How do you improve the numbers overall to take the support you have amongst your base in the prairies to an actually national mandate, Michelle?
It's a good question. CTV's Michael Serapio in our Ottawa Bureau. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a short break, but still ahead, we will break down your full weather forecast. And here's a look at the air quality. Certainly Toronto not faring as good as some other areas, but it is in the low range at 3. A little fresher air in Barrie, Peterborough, and Kingston. More when we return.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers. You don't pay unless they win.
Happy Tuesday. We are looking at a beautiful live shot of our city skyline. Nice blue sky, not any clouds, at least in this view. And we have beautiful summer temperatures. And there is more of this nice weather to come, although this week is not without some rain. We're going to walk you through it right now. Let's have a peek at the satellite and radar. And you can see across southwestern Ontario, nice clear skies. There's some systems to the west and the east. But for right now, we are in the clear, and we certainly hope that you will enjoy it. As far as humidity goes, at this hour, looking really great. It's basically feeling like the temperature, 26 degrees in Toronto. More humidity if you head south towards Windsor or east to Kingston, but Toronto is really in the sweet spot at this hour. The high today, expect 28 degrees, just a solid summer day all across the board here at this part of Ontario. Now, the UV index. So if you do have some plans, you definitely want the sunscreen. You should always wear it, but it's in the very high range at 8, a little higher towards Hamilton, London, and Windsor. Looking at the low tonight, comfortable for whatever you have plans, and really the note is clear skies, 16 degrees tonight, feeling, the normal rather is 17, so we're just about where we should be at this stage in August, in the summer, and tomorrow. Gear up for it. It's going to be even warmer, the high 29 degrees, but humidity comes in. So it's going to feel like 35. It's definitely going to feel a lot warmer than it did today. If you like the humidity, tomorrow's the day for you. If not, today's a really good day to get out and enjoy. And the UV index even higher tomorrow. So you want to get your sunscreen on and get ready for whatever plans you have, because it's going to be hot and sunny. So Tuesday, Wednesday, hot, hot, hot. Thursday brings wet weather. So highs of 29 degrees on Thursday, 28 on Friday, and we do have humidity as well. More of a chance of showers Thursday, a little less Friday, but definitely plan for cloudy conditions, the potential for rain. The evenings comfortable, and then the weekend. So we're still early. And it's not going, we're not exactly sure of how it's going to be, but at this stage, it's looking like we have a chance of showers on Saturday as well as Sunday, but sun is in the mix as well. So plan for the potential of showers, and definitely heat. 30 degrees anticipated for Saturday, 29 Sunday, and we have humidity in the mix. And then it's looking like next week could start with unsettled conditions, the potential for showers. But if you look straight across the board, we have the summer heat, some beautiful sunny days, and some rain in the mix. So hopefully that helps you plan as we head into some other news now. Over in Greece, firefighters are scrambling to contain wildfires outside Athens before winds and high temperatures return. Some residents west of the capital returned to scenes of devastation today after a major blaze tore through the area, destroying homes and forcing mass evacuations. Crews are now working to prevent flare-ups. Several blazes that burned through mountain communities and coastal areas outside Athens were brought under control overnight. Authorities say 33 people were arrested last month for starting fires, including negligence and suspicion of arson. In the Netherlands, firefighters battled a blaze throughout the night and into today. The large wildfire forcing evacuations and halted train service as flames spread quickly. About 100 hectares have been affected so far. Crews from several provinces were deployed to tackle the blaze. Large forest fires in the Netherlands are relatively rare. England's Football Association, commonly referred to as the FA, has joined Wales in withdrawing support for FIFA President Gianni Infantino's re-election bid. This move comes, of course, after his plans to sell off stakes in FIFA competitions, including the World Cup, to private investors. The decision was met by fierce resistance from stakeholders around the world. Infantino was forced to scrap the plan early Saturday after his senior advisor resigned. Recent hot, dry weather in England has revealed the outline of a lost 17th century garden beneath a lawn. The decorative patterns at Chatsworth House show the remain of the garden designed in 1699 for the first Duke of Devonshire. It featured paths and ornamental planting designed to complement the newly completed front of the house. The patterns may fade when wetter weather returns, but for now they offer a temporary map of the estate's past. The culprit made a clean getaway, but police are investigating after this soapy surprise in Minnesota on the weekend. Authorities are searching for whoever poured soap into this public fountain. A city plumber was called to shut off the water. And after the break here on CTV News at noon, Dan Riskin is on deck. He joins us for his weekly science and tech chat. We're talking deep breaths and career goals. Don't go anywhere.
The quickest way to explore the world might just be with a fork. Today we're discovering the people, the traditions, and the flavors behind some incredible cuisine. At Nona's Burek in Etobicoke, every bite is rooted in tradition. Let's take a peek at what's on the menu. Loretta! Hi! Specializing in handcrafted Balkan-style Burek, this family-run spot serves flaky, golden pastries filled with savory favorites and recipes inspired by generations of home cooking.
For someone who's never ever tasted Burek, tell me a little bit about how it's made and what goes into it and how it tastes.
Okay, so you were correct. You tried it in Turkey. The Ottoman Empire brought it to the Balkans, and we just did wonderful things with it. It's made by hand, every day from scratch over here. There's obviously layers. We have 3 different flavors here for you to try, and that's on our menu. It's meat, cheese, and then spinach and cheese.
And the bread is traditional dough, or it feels like a phyllo pastry almost.
Phyllo, but made from scratch.
This is your favorite, right?
That's my favorite.
So what makes it your favorite?
I love spinach, And I love the mix of feta and ricotta. You can probably taste it right now, right?
I'm just gonna keep eating.
This is our chivapis. So it's our sausages mixed with beef and lamb.
And then these are...
We have our little fixings here. That's roasted red pepper spread, onions with some paprika, and this is our little gem that I can't tell you about, but you have to try it.
Oh, secret recipe. But
Yes.
you'll whisper them maybe
I
later.
will, for
Okay,
sure.
I like that.
This is our Nona's cake. It's our specialty. It's a Biscoff no-bake cheesecake.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. How's that bite? You need a moment? My family's been here since 1968. We're Canadian, but we've obviously carried our traditions around even up until today. This is why I opened Nona's Burek, because every day we've been eating this. I've been eating Burek my whole life. What makes me happy is almost every customer that's come in here has said, it reminds me of my grandma.
You don't need a passport to experience the flavors of the Balkans. Just bring your appetite and let the food transport you to a whole new world. Thank you, Nona. Full details at cp24.com.
If you're about to make a big decision, it might seem like a great idea to slow down and just take a deep breath. But new research shows that strategy might push you into territory that is risky. For more, we're joined by CTV science and technology specialist Dan Riskin. Dan, come on now, breathing's good. It's, slows the heart rate down. How can that be a bad thing?
Breathing is good. I'm not here to tell anybody that they should. Don't stop breathing, for sure. But this is a study where they had people do deep breaths, and you would expect that makes you sort of your best possible version of yourself. You're calmer, you're more level-headed. And so this was done in the context of people making bets for a game. The game had like these 50-50 bets, and if you took the risky bet, then you could win or you could lose. And how likely were you to take that bet? And what they found was people that were taking deep breaths when they were told to take deep breaths, they ended up taking riskier bets than people who were breathing normally. And so it wasn't that you made smarter bets. It wasn't that you were better at evaluating the odds. It was that when there was a big upside, you were more tantalized by it. And so there's something about getting all that oxygen that makes you see the upside. It makes you more sort of optimistic about how things are going to turn out. And so listen, for a lot of things, you do need to take those deep breaths. Like if you're about to go out on stage and perform, take some deep breaths because you want to be sort of ready for that best possible outcome. But if you're about to buy a really expensive car and you're trying to decide if this is the right thing to do, just know that those deep breaths are going to push you towards the riskier thing.
So not the strategy when you're doing something like that. Okay, now you also came with an interesting study about the value of not having a career plan. What? I thought a career plan's a good thing. You're kind of flipping the script on all these topics
another
today.
One of these counterintuitive things.
Yeah.
Don't breathe. No, do breathe.
Yes.
And don't have a career plan. It's not to not have a career plan, but they took 1,000 U.S. workers and they asked them a bunch of questions. And what they were looking for is sort of where these people fell out on the spectrum between I have a plan, I know where I'm going to be in 5 years, and I know exactly how I'm going to get there, versus I like my job, I'm chilling, I don't exactly know. I'm moving forward, but I don't exactly know where this is leading, and I'm optimistic about the future. And I would say that, like, for me, when I was studying bats, I didn't know where it was going to end up. Maybe I'd be a bat biologist, maybe I'd be a professor, maybe I'd do something else. I had no idea I'd be here talking to you. But I've sort of always had this sort of like laissez-faire attitude. So they interviewed people about their attitudes, and what they found was people that had that sort of chill, I don't know exactly how this is going to go, that attitude, they had way higher work satisfaction, and they were just a lot more content at work, as opposed to people that were very rigid and believed that they needed to be moving forward and had an idea of where they were going. And what's interesting about this is that it does go against what we hear all the time, right? You're supposed to have a goal, have a dream, always work towards it, right? That's the advice we get. And this study suggests that you may not be happy day to day if that's the strategy you're taking. And so I'm not sure really how to take this. I mean, what are we optimizing with our careers? Is it the day-to-day happiness, or is it getting to where we want to be in our career? And are they necessarily in opposition? Or is it perhaps true that having that laissez-faire attitude can get you there just as easily as having that really driven, sort of really career-focused view on things. And that answer didn't come from this study. So it brings up a lot of good questions and really makes you sort of reflect on it. What's your perspective?
I like this. I feel like it takes the pressure off maybe. We both have 3 kids and you want them to do the best, but maybe relax a little and don't be so intense about it.
Yeah. I mean, with education, you're always like, well, you got to finish this, and you got to go to this, and you got to do this, right? But you're right. It can be a meandering path. And so maybe if they stop taking this class and switch to something else or something like that, we could be wise in sort of understanding that this is just a meandering stream and we'll see where it leads.
Yeah, it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. It worked out for you. So
well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
CTV science and tech expert Dan Riskin, great to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Love when you come by. Well, another Canadian is preparing for the journey of a lifetime. Joshua Kutrick was one of 4 astronauts introduced in Houston yesterday as they prepare for a mission to the International Space Station.
For me, I would just spend a few minutes here to talk about the enormous sense of gratitude that the 4 of us feel for everyone who has gone into making this mission possible. You know, personally, myself, I grew up on a cattle farm in Canada. It's a long way from being here with this mission in front of us. But the one thing that has resonated at every twist and turn in that journey has been the complexity of these missions, and because of that, the enormity of the teams that go into pulling missions like this off. So we need to say thank you to everyone.
The Alberta native and his crewmates will spend 6 months in orbit conducting experiments and maintenance work. NASA released images from the space station this morning showing the view he will have during his time up there. Liftoff from Florida is scheduled for September 12th. In April, fellow Canadian Jeremy Hansen, remember that, flew around the moon during the Artemis II mission. We're going to take a short break on this beautiful Tuesday. Business is next. Stay with us. SpaceX investors get a chance to grill the company's CEO today after shares dropped. BNN Bloomberg's Roger Peterson has that and more in our business report.
Investors in Elon Musk's space company get a chance to question him Tuesday after SpaceX issues its first quarterly earnings since going public. SpaceX shares are down by half from their June peak as investors worry Musk may have oversold them on its future prospects. They're also bracing for volatile trading as some company insiders get the opportunity to sell shares after the expiration of what's known as a lockup provision later this week. Open Farm is working toward a potential initial public offering in Canada with Goldman Sachs and Royal Bank leading the way. The company had annual sales of more than 400 million as of the end of June and plans to raise as much as 400 million Canadian in an offering with an expected valuation between 1 and 2 billion Canadian. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission is drafting a ban on imports of some Chinese data center components, a move to protect American-made parts and prevent Chinese firms from installing malware or stealing data, Reuters said, citing people familiar with the plans. Those are your morning business headlines. For BNN Bloomberg, I'm Roger Peterson.
And coming up, the little library turning heads, not for what's inside, but rather what's on the outside. All aboard this unique place to pick up a free book. The story after the break. Finally, this noon hour, many neighborhoods play host to a free lending library. You've seen the signs, often reading, take a book, leave a book. CTV's Adam Sawatsky has the story of one little library in Victoria that stands out, not because of what's on the shelves.
Across the street from this cruise ship terminal, you'll find Jeff Apollinario working at the end of his driveway.
I've always wanted to make a library with a cruise ship theme, if you want to call it that.
But this little library is turning out to be a very big replica of the iconic Queen Mary.
Well, it's 8 foot long, so I got 8 foot more space in the garage now that it's out there.
Jeff started building it in here after finding a perfect piece of furniture discarded on a curb.
There was this 2-door gun cabinet sitting there.
Well, after studying books showing the blueprints from when the Queen Mary was built in the 1930s, Jeff focused on custom making every detail in miniature, with help from his wife, Marge.
She was great with the sanding, with the varnishing. I put her to work on a lot of projects.
That's after she put him to work a lot, throughout their careers.
She's tough as nails.
When we first met the couple a few years ago, Jeff and Marge told us they met at a military hospital in Saudi Arabia during the first Gulf War.
Well, just like she is now, she's a looker.
Marge was his respected boss, while Jeff was the guy that got things done.
Then I got to know him, and I thought it was even nicer.
3 decades after falling in love, Marge and Jeff survived countless conflicts overseas before facing unexpected adversity at home.
You play the cards you dealt, right, babe? And we're making the best of things.
So after Marge was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Jeff customized a trike so they could go on daily dates around the neighborhood. So although her memory was fading, their love was enduring.
I do love him. Yeah, I do.
Marge never got to see their library set sail at the end of their driveway. More than a year ago, she passed away.
We had a good run. We saw a lot of places, had a lot of fun times.
Which is why Jeff is so pleased to see the fun times people are having with the model.
This is brilliant. Yeah, it's really good.
Exchanging books and engaging in conversations.
And the fact that people light up when they see it, it makes it all worthwhile.
And while some ships are christened after Elizabeth's or Mary's, Jeff says this library won't be complete until he adds a plaque saying, "In memory of Marge." Adam Sawatsky, CTV News.
Oh, how beautiful is that? And it is beautiful this hour in the city. If we have a look at the radar, there is nothing to spoil your plans today. If you have some sports, some baseball or soccer tonight, really nice conditions. But keep in mind, humidity is going to build, so it'll feel like in the 30s, 7, 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, even warmer, and humidity is going to make it feel like in the 30s. So the sunny days this week are today and tomorrow. Nice summer heat. It gets unsettled Thursday, Friday, but the heat continues. Could be unsettled on the weekend, but I'm optimistic. We'll have some sun and maybe very few showers, if any at all. That's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at your website, ctvnewstoronto.ca. For the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé, and be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. See you then. My brain's not fully on, but we